The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as I stood frozen in the anatomy lab, my scalpel trembling in my sweaty hand. Around me, my classmates whispered, their voices dripping with confidence I didn't have. "She doesn't belong here," one sneered. My stomach churned with shame. But what they didn't know. Years later, I'd be the doctor saving their lives, and they'd eat every word they ever said. If you've ever been underestimated, stick around for a story of revenge that'll leave you cheering. Hello everyone, my name is Claire. I'm a doctor now, living in Boston, but let me take you back to my days in medical school, when I was just a 22-year-old drowning under pressure. This is my real-life story of struggle, betrayal, and the most satisfying payback I could have imagined. If you've ever dreamed of proving someone wrong, hit that like button, subscribe, and let's dive into a story that might just touch your heart. I was 22 when I walked through the towering glass doors of my medical school. My family had thrown a party when I got accepted, streamers, cake, my mom crying tears of pride. "Our Claire's gonna be a doctor," they kept saying, as if I'd already earned the white coat. I smiled through it, but deep down, I felt a knot in my chest. Their pride wasn't just love, it was expectation. Heavy, suffocating expectation. The campus was beautiful. Ivy-covered buildings, sprawling lawns, and students who seemed to glow with purpose. I thought I was ready. I'd been a straight-A student in undergrad, the kind who color-coded her notes and never missed a deadline. But medical school? It was a different beast. The first week hit me like a freight train. Lectures were a fire hose of information, Latin terms for muscles I'd never heard of, biochemical pathways that twisted my brain into knots. My backpack sagged with textbooks thicker than my arm. By Friday, I was already behind. I'd stare at my notes, the words blurring into meaningless scribbles, and think, what have I gotten myself into? Then there was the clique. You know the type. Those students who seemed to have it all figured out. They called themselves the Scalpels, a stupid nickname they thought was clever. Their leader was Ethan, a 24-year-old with a smug grin and a pedigree that included a surgeon father and a trust fund. He'd stride into lectures with his tailored blazer, tossing out terms like myocardial infarction, as casually as if he were ordering coffee. His posse, 3 other guys and a girl named Vanessa, followed him like loyal dogs, laughing too loud at his jokes, parroting his answers in class. Ethan noticed me early on. Not in a good way. During our first group study session, I fumbled a question about the brachial plexus. My voice cracked, and I felt my face burn as I stammered, I think it's the nerve network for the arm." Ethan leaned back in his chair, smirking. "Wow, Claire, did you even read the textbook?" The Scalpels snickered, and Vanessa added, "Maybe you should stick to nursing school." The room felt smaller, the air thicker. I wanted to disappear. From then on, Ethan and his crew made me their punching bag. In anatomy lab, they'd accidentally bump my tray of tools, sending scalpels clattering. "Oops," Ethan would say, his eyes gleaming with malice. Vanessa would whisper just loud enough for me to hear, "How'd she even get in here?" I'd grip my pencil so hard my knuckles turned white, telling myself to ignore them. But each jab chipped away at me, planting a seed of doubt. Maybe they're right. Maybe I don't belong. The pressure wasn't just from them, it was the whole system. Medical school was a gauntlet. Exams came every week, each one covering more material than I'd studied in a semester of undergrad. I'd spend hours memorizing the cranial nerves, only to blank during a quiz when the professor's eyes locked onto mine. My grades hovered at the edge of passing, and every low score felt like a personal failure. I stopped sleeping. My dorm room became a war zone of coffee cups, highlighters, and crumpled flashcards. I'd study until 3 a.m., my eyes burning, my head pounding, whispering to myself, "Just one more chapter. You can't fail." My roommate, Sarah, would beg me to rest. "Claire, you look like a zombie," she'd say, her voice soft with worry. I'd snap, "I'm fine." But I wasn't. My hands shook constantly. I forgot to eat. My reflection in the mirror showed dark circles and hollow cheeks. The scalpels didn't let up. One day in lab, I was dissecting a cadaver's arm, my scalpel slipping from my sweaty fingers. Ethan leaned over, his breath hot on my neck. "Careful, Claire. Don't butcher the poor guy worse than you already are." Vanessa giggled, and I felt my throat tighten. I wanted to scream, "Leave me alone." But I just clenched my jaw and kept cutting, my vision blurring with unshed tears. The breaking point came in my second year. I'd been awake for nearly 40 hours, cramming for a pathology exam. My notes were a mess of scribbled terms: necrosis, apoptosis, granulomas, none of it sticking. The library was silent except for the hum of the vending machine and the occasional cough from another student. My body screamed for rest, but I ignored it. "You can sleep after the exam," I told myself. Then it happened. The room spun. My heart raced, pounding in my ears. My notes slipped from my hands, and the next thing I knew, I was on the floor, surrounded by blurry faces. "Claire? Claire!" someone shouted. I woke up in the infirmary, an IV dripping into my arm, a nurse's gentle voice telling me I'd fainted from exhaustion and dehydration. Lying there, staring at the ceiling tiles, I felt something shift. I'd been running on fumes, destroying myself to prove I was good enough. For what? To make my family proud? To silence Ethan and his clique? I was killing myself for people who didn't care if I lived or died. That was the moment I decided, no more. I didn't have a grand plan at first. I just knew I couldn't keep living like this. I started small. I set a bedtime, midnight, no exceptions. I ate real meals, not just granola bars. I went for jogs in the morning, the crisp air clearing my head. Slowly, my hands stopped shaking. My mind felt sharper. But the real turning point was asking for help. I'd always been too proud, too afraid of looking weak. One day, I knocked on my pathology professor's door. Drive. Patel, a kind man with graying hair and a quiet voice. I poured out everything. The pressure, the bullying, the fear of failing. My voice shook, but he listened, his eyes steady. "Claire," he said, "medicine isn't about being perfect. It's about caring enough to keep going. Start with yourself." He connected me with a tutor and a counselor, and for the first time, I felt like I wasn't alone. I also got strategic. The scalpels thrived on my insecurity, so I stopped giving them ammunition. When Ethan made a snide comment, I'd smile and say, "Thanks for the feedback." It drove him crazy. I joined a study group with Sarah and a few others who actually cared about learning, not competing. My grades climbed, not to the top, but enough to feel like I was gaining ground. Then came the opportunity for revenge. In our third year, we had a clinical rotation where students presented patient cases to a panel of doctors. It was high stakes. A bad presentation could tank your reputation. Ethan, of course, was chosen to lead our group's case. He assigned me the smallest role, reading lab results, while he took the spotlight, presenting the diagnosis. "Don't screw this up, Claire," he said, smirking. I nodded, but inside, I was seething. This is my chance. I spent weeks preparing. I didn't just memorize the lab results. I studied the entire case, every detail of the patient's condition, from symptoms to treatment options. I practiced my delivery in front of the mirror, my voice steady, my hands calm. When the day came, I was ready. The lecture hall was packed with students and faculty. Ethan stood at the podium, his blazer crisp, his voice oozing confidence. He breezed through the case, but I noticed gaps, details he glossed over, assumptions he made. When it was my turn, I stepped up, my heart pounding but my head clear. I didn't just read the lab results. I explained their significance, tying them to the patient's symptoms with precision. I answered a professor's follow-up question about differential diagnoses, citing a rare condition Ethan hadn't even mentioned. The room went quiet. Ethan's smirk faltered. Vanessa's jaw tightened. When the panel praised my contribution, calling it exceptionally thorough, I felt a rush of triumph. Ethan tried to recover, but his closing remarks were shaky. After the presentation, Dr. Patel pulled me aside. "Claire, that was outstanding. You've got a real gift for this." I smiled, but my eyes locked on Ethan, who was gathering his notes, his face red. For once, he had nothing to say. That wasn't the end. Word spread about my performance, and suddenly, I wasn't just that girl who fainted. Professors started calling on me in class. Peers asked me for study tips. Ethan and the scalpel stopped targeting me, not because they'd changed, but because they knew I'd outshine them. The ultimate payoff came a year later when I matched into a competitive residency program. At the announcement ceremony, Ethan's name wasn't called for his top choice. I didn't gloat, but as I walked across the stage to accept my placement, I felt a quiet victory. I'd won, not just against them, but against the version of myself that thought I wasn't enough. Looking back, I realize revenge wasn't about humiliating Ethan or the scalpels. It was about reclaiming my power. I learned that success isn't about being the best, it's about being whole. I almost lost myself to pressure, but I came out stronger. If you're struggling, feeling like you're not enough, hear this: you are. And sometimes, the sweetest justice is proving it to yourself. If this story gave you chills, or maybe a little inspiration, smash that like button and tell us in the comments. What's the most satisfying moment you've had proving someone wrong? Don't forget to subscribe for more real-life stories like this, and hit the bell so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.